Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. This time out, we are joined by Jim DeCola, Master Luthier, Chris McKinney, Product Specialist for Gibson USA, and they've brought out pretty much the entire line of new 2014 Gibsons, right?
Yes, we did.
Than's for coming in, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us, Chris.
Thanks, man.
Glad you guys came up. You were talking to the sales engineers this morning and kind of giving them the rundown on the new products. But so tell us how the process works. You know, do you just say, okay, we're going to come out with new guitars, or do you have a plan that you've laid out? How does the whole process come together as far as designing an entirely new line of Gibsons for a year?
We'll take a lot of input from, maybe artists or dealers and customers, along with things that we might have been thinking about. This year, we've come out with some changes to the line across the board, like larger diameter strap buttons, which isn't a significant change, but it is. I mean, it's more secure, and it still has that Gibson look, but it's a little bit more secure, bigger diameter.
Right.
We did that because we did some promotions in the past, and we saw some customers strapping on guitars and the straps lifted, so we thought, it's probably a smart thing to do. Other things this year, from input from customers and dealers, the overlapping fret over the binding. Instead of having the binding nib, we've had some input where, people have mentioned that the strings were kind of hitting on that binding nib and getting stuck from time to time, depending on the player and all that. So we decided to overlap the fret on the binding. It gives it more surface area for the string, so you can vibrato and shake chords, things like that, and not fall off the neck. So
right.
And then along the way, we may have things that we may have started, and we said, well, maybe we'll wait until next year and finish things out. Henry, our leader, of course, had a lot of ideas this year, so we just take all that and
right.
That's how we arrived with all the new stuff.
To kind of add on to that, it's interesting though, because like the fret, the binding over fret ends, that's a historical attribute to Gibson that a lot of people are used to seeing.
Right.
And it's one of those things, it's like you have to stop and think. It's like, now, do we do this? Do we not do this? Because it is something, at this point, with Gibson celebrating their 120th anniversary this year, you have to stop and think about those things too, because they have a fanatical fan base that notices every little detail that you change.
Right.
So you have to really kind of take that into consideration.
Yeah, that was a huge undertaking. The way we process our fingerboards and the frets, it cost us, a lot of time and training and effort. It was not an easy thing to do. So we felt so compelled to do it, though. So we had to take the jump. And like Chris pointed out, it is historically significant. So, the traditional we kept with the binding nib to please those folks, who were really concerned with that. But overall, we felt the playability was a lot better having the fret overlap like it is now. So. Like I said, it was a huge undertaking and expense, but we felt strongly about it.
Sure. Well, you mentioned the 120-year history of the company, and of course, when you're dealing with the electrics, you're going back to some of the benchmark instruments that were ever created as far as electric guitars go. How much does that history really impact when you're thinking about, I mean, you've mentioned it's a big undertaking, but do you say, no, we can't change that. That's something that was on the 59 standard, and so it's there for all time. Or are there things that are just sacrosanct, you can't change them? Or?
Yeah, there's certain things that we still were very conscious of that we can't change. At USA, we have a little bit more latitude. Custom will generally stay with the absolute historical correctness with things, unless it's maybe a artist model or a limited custom run. But with USA, we have a little bit more flexibility, but we're still very concerned. It still has to be a Gibson. It still has to represent what Gibson stands for, and we can't stray too far, but we do have a bit more latitude. With pickups and electronics, we still want to stay within our classic models. We wouldn't, for instance, want to change, mounting holes or things like that would change mounting and swapping pickups. That wouldn't be a smart thing for us to do. We want to keep things interchangeable, but at the same time, we can still expand on what we have so long as we stay within those formats and make things retrofittable.
Right, right. So you do have some things on this year's models that are pretty revolutionary. One of which is the mini-tune system. Can you talk a little bit about how that system developed? It was actually introduced last year, but you've got it on a number of the models this year.
Yeah, this year.
How did that come about?
We're working closely with another company, Tronical, that we partnered with, and you know, it's been in development, you know, and it evolved over many years. This latest version of it is simply, you know, it started out with our robot guitars and the FBXs, which were our highest technology guitars with onboard effects and capabilities like that, as well as the tuning. But we kind of distilled it down into just the tuning aspect of it with the new mini-tune system. So it has, you know, in addition to simply tuning your guitar, you know, capability of 18 tunings, different tunings. So it's supplied with 12 tunings, open tunings, drop tunings, you know, open E, open G, drop D, a variety of tunings like that, and then you can create and save 6 of your own. So if you have, say for instance you're recording and maybe you have a piano in a recording studio that's not exactly A440, you can tune to that piano and save that tuning, and you know, it's a big benefit like that. Or if it, you know, same situation but live, you know, maybe you have to tune to a piano. Or if you're learning a song, maybe it's an old blues song that maybe, you know, wasn't referenced to A440, you can tune to that and retain that tuning. Right. So there's a lot of benefits with just the tuning, and as far as a learning tool, for beginners it's great because if you go back to when you first started guitar, just tuning a guitar is, you know, a big challenge. So this way, you know, it makes it easier for even a beginner to get their tuning taken care of, and then they can concentrate on actually learning to play the guitar. And along the way, the tuning, you know, is, you know, that task is going to come on board and evolve as you evolve as a player. Sure. And then with the alternate tuning capabilities, you know, the open tunings and all that, now it's a great learning tool because they're all available at the press of a few buttons. So maybe you don't know how to play an open G or dad-gad. Well, now you just press a button and it retunes it for you, and now you can learn, and you don't have to worry about dedicating a specific instrument or more instruments to those different tunings. And in live performance, now you don't have to have multiple guitars. You can have one guitar take care of all those tasks.
Right. And it is, this year it's going to be on the Les Paul standard. It isn't on, you know, an instrument that's, you know, a work in progress, you know, type of instrument. It is actually going to be, you know, the Les Paul standard, which, you know, we feel will hopefully become the standard that everyone, you know, gets used to. That, you know, you have this piece that is part of a historic guitar. You know, it's not stuck on some other, you know, futuristic type of design. Henry, our leader, feels very strong, you know, about this system, and feels that, you know, it's going to be, you know, a benchmark piece, you know, for Gibson, you know, for years to come, and it's a great system, and the different alternate tunings, the drop tunings and things of that nature that you have there, I know for myself as a player, you know, makes it the first guitar that I want to go pick up and grab and play because of that factor.
Right, right. One of the other things that I think is very exciting in the new guitars is some of the new pickups that you've come up with. Now, do those pickup designs come from, like Chris, as a product specialist, you're out there in the world, you're talking to players. Are you getting questions, requests, suggestions for that? Is that where some of those kind of things come from?
Yeah, a lot of that stuff comes from feedback, you know, from end users, as we call them, you know, out there in the field, you know. And Gibson's very good at responding to the request of players out there, and yeah, you know, so like the new Sidewinder pickup, you know, that was, you know, because we had a P100, which was a hum canceling P90, you know, but it wasn't as well received as we liked. And so, you know, Jim developed the Sidewinder, you know, to answer that request. Right.
So, Jim, how did you go about developing that? Where did the idea come from?
Now that, you know, like as Chris pointed out, we had input, you know, about making a hum canceling P90. sound more like a true P90, where the P100 lacked a little bit. So I thought of technology. Now this goes back. This is how we blend the old with the new. The technology was really what Seth Lover developed on the original EBO pickups. They were, you know, as we call it, the Sidewinder technology. Originally, I don't think they coined that name for his original design, but basically, instead of having two coils like we're accustomed to seeing, we rotate them 90 degrees. So the wire's wrapped in that direction instead of that direction. And the reason for doing it that way is that we can retain a single row of pole pieces. And that's the big difference. Now, Seth Lover, to go back to other history, when he created the humbucker, the intention was to make a P90 that was hum canceling, that got rid of the noise. So he invented the humbucker with two coils, divided the turns in half and put them on two smaller coils. But that sounded different. It created a whole new voice. In fact, that was a revolution in itself right there.
Sure.
But it, you know, was different than the P90. So then later he did the EBO pickup that used that Sidewinder type technology with the rotated coils. I used that same technology but packaged it in a P90. We used the same magnets and pole shoe and screws and two smaller coils rotated sideways, so it retains that center point humbucker and a more convincing or classic P90 tone.
Right.
So it's old original technology, you know, just taken to today.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So rotating the coil like that and the magnet doesn't affect the way the magnetic field or the
it does
way it's
affect
sensed in
it,
the string?
But what we do basically when we rotate it sideways, we use the same two bar magnets as we do on a P90, but the coil slides over the top instead of sitting on top of it.
Okay.
So it works in a different way, but you know, it's still a humbucking configuration, and you know, it achieves that P90 because it's still a single row sensing the strings.
So the aperture is still the same.
Exactly, that's the key, keeping the aperture in that single point instead of the dual aperture on a humbucker.
I see.
So that there again, that's a great story of old and new combined to solve a problem today.
Right.
Another one was the new P90S that we're using in the Les Paul Melody Maker, and that was one that, as that model developed, we were talking about making our most affordable model in the line, you know, the Melody Maker, Les Paul. So as we discussed what features it would have and what price point we wanted to stay in, we said, well, to keep that price point, we'll probably, you know, in our line, you know, the P90 is less expensive to make than a humbucker, probably put P90s in it. So then I suggested, well, if we're going to do that, why don't we do P90s with Allen & Co. rod magnets? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, just simply using Allen & Co. rod magnets. Gibson actually did that first between 1946 and 1950. And a lot of people don't realize that they existed back then, but they did in the original ES-125. So we're able to, again, more or less, you know, do a new version of that old pickup, and it creates a whole new voice. You know, it has a lot more spank and high end and, you know, chime than a conventional P90, which is, even though it's a well-rounded, versatile pickup everyone knows and loves, has more of a grind when you really overdrive it. This has a little bit more clarity, and at the same time we made it hum canceling because we reverse wound and magnetic polarity, reverse wind, reverse polarity, the bridge pickup. So we retain hum canceling when they're both on. So again, you know, old meets new, and you know, it's a great new voice.
Yeah, right. Yeah. One of the other things I really like is several of the models have a humbucker in the bridge and a P90 in the neck pickup position. And that seems like, in my experience anyway, I like that combination because it seems like it balances really well. Because on a lot of guitars, when you get the bridge humbucker sounding great, then the neck one you have to adjust and go back and forth, but that combination seems to work really well.
Yeah, it is. It's another way. A lot of our models now, we're calibrating our pickups, you know, so the bridge pickup will be hotter than the neck, you know, to balance the output. And we've done that for some time now. And with the P100, or I mean the P90 in the neck position, or in the case with a lot of the new models, the Sidewinder, you have that beautiful, P90 character in that position, blending, with the harder, more girth of the humbucker and the bridge.
Right.
So it does make it really versatile. And when you can combine it, it's, the sum is greater than, each of them, individually. It's very versatile, and you can coil tap both of them. So a lot of tones available in that model.
Yeah, wow, lots of versatility.
Yeah, coil tap and a 15 dB boost. So, I mean, yeah, the Futura is a very advanced, versatile guitar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you mentioned the Melody Maker, you mentioned the Futura. Let's talk about some of the specific models in the line.
Okay.
So, Jim, this is the new Melody Maker, the 120th anniversary model. Tell us what's going on with this guitar.
The new Les Paul Melody Maker, combines a lot of the benefits from the classic Les Paul and the Melody Maker. We retain the contoured top as on the traditional Les Paul, but we have the very thin slimline body. We did a similar model in the past called the Les Paul Custom Light. So physically it's the same thing, same thickness and contoured top, but we retained two P90s, this time in the P90S, which is slug for the Alnico rod magnet slug pickups. So that creates a whole new voice, a lot more percussive, a lot more high-end and attack than a conventional P90. So it's a very cool new voice that draws back on history. We talked earlier a bit about some of the history where they were originally used in the 129 from 1946 to 1950. So we have some history there, plus it has a new voice. The wraparound tailpiece is very cool. It's very rock solid. So in a way, it's kind of like you take a Les Paul Standard, a Melody Maker, and a Les Paul Special, and kind of combine a lot of the best aspects of all of them.
Right.
And this guitar is where the Melody Maker historically has been a flat top mahogany instrument. This guitar is a mahogany back maple cap guitar, much like a Les Paul would be. So like Jim was saying, it's very much an amalgamation of all of those guitars.
Yeah, our most affordable model at Gibson USA, but fully featured, great tone woods, maple top, mahogany back, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. So it's all made here at USA, and it's a great guitar. We're very, very excited and proud of this model.
Oh yeah, it looks great.
And it's available in 4 awesome new colors.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Satin, we're doing satin chrome. Ties in nicely with the satin finish, so it's very earthy. You don't get fingerprints, and it's real friendly feeling. And the satin hardware is just kind of like a high-techy kind of look.
Right.
So.
Right. And the new knobs as well.
Yeah, the new knobs. We had some input there, with people saying maybe when they'd sweat, the knobs would get a little bit slippery. So we're doing this kind of like a ribbed kind of contour around the perimeter of the knob, and they will be a little bit taller like the original speed knobs in the early 50s. So it'll be a more secure feel, and still has the classic Gibson look.
Right. All those little details make such a difference in the quality of the guitar.
But and like we were talking about earlier, the larger strap button.
Yes. Yeah, right.
I still think someday that I'm going to be Jimmy Page. So I still have the guitar down, around here. And the strap wants to slide off on the small strap buttons. But the large strap button is much better.
No, I think that's great. Absolutely a great change.
We also did reverse wind, reverse polarity on the pickup, so they're hum canceling when they're both combined. So
outstanding.
Yeah. It's our most affordable and still, crafted with classic Gibson components and
bang for the buck.
craftsmanship.
Great guitar.
Yeah.
Right. So Jim, this is a really interesting looking guitar you're holding here. There's an extra switch on it. Pickups are different. Tell us what you have in your hands.
This is the SG Futura. The Futura series, we're doing an SG version of and a Les Paul version. They share a lot of the same features. We have a 15 dB clean boost that we're using. We call the Pure Boost. On the SG, it's actuated by a mini toggle switch. On the Les Paul, it's a push-push pot.
Okay.
But the same circuitry. So it's just a nice clean boost if you're in a jam situation and you need a boost for a solo. It comes in handy for that. A lot of people like it, just as a tone tool too, because even though it's a clean boost and it doesn't really color your sound significantly, it does give it a little bit more brightness and edge. So it kind of expands your tonal palette, with all your pickup combinations and blends. So, here we have this new Sidewinder P90, which is a hum canceling P90. Coils are rotated 90 degrees and retaining a center point humbucker configuration. And we combined that pickup with a burst bucker 3 in the bridge position. Both pickups can be coil cut, and when they're both coil cut and combined, they're reverse wind, reverse polarity, so they're hum canceling. And you know, you can blend them in any configuration, and you know, with the boost. So there's a lot of great tones and
a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely.
Versatility.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what is the finish that's on this? That's a beautiful guitar.
This finish is called Inverness Green Fade. So it has kind of a faded perimeter burst around it, and it's a real vibrant color. We have a variety of new colors in a similar fashion as this. A lot of exciting new colors.
Yeah, yeah. Now, we were talking earlier about the mini tune, and this has the mini tune on it. Can you show us that?
Yes. This is the E-Tune system. It's powered by a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. You just press it in, pull it out, and recharge it. You can get, if you're just retuning, you know, refreshing your tuning, you can get, you know, upwards of 200 tunings just refreshing. If you're really working it, going between alternate tunings, maybe 80 to 100 tunings.
Wow.
So for the average, you know, weekend warrior playing 2 gigs, you know, 1 charge will take care of you.
Right.
So it you know, tunes your guitar, which is a great benefit, but I think even more important than that, it comes supplied with 12 onboard alternate tunings. So you can have your open E, open D, open G, dad, gad, drop D, 12 different tunings it's supplied with, and you can create and save 6 of your own.
Wow. So
that's 18 tunings that you're capable of with a few presses of the buttons. You can say save a tuning if you're in a recording studio or a live situation where maybe a piano's not really referenced to A440. You can tune to that and save that tuning. And as a learning tool for beginners, you know, just tuning a guitar is a major achievement. So you know, this takes some of the stress off a beginner because they can simply tune their guitar with the press of a button. And at the same time, it's a learning tool because now their ear will be developing along with the tuning.
Sure.
So, and then even for more accomplished players, you know, maybe they're not familiar with DAD-GAD or Open G or whatever the case may be. So now, open tunings are a lot more accessible because you don't have to dedicate a particular guitar to learning a new tuning.
Right.
And for the live player who maybe does know those tunings, now he doesn't have to dedicate multiple guitars. He can take 1 guitar on the road with them and have everything right there.
Oh, I think that's a huge deal. I've done a lot of gigs where I've had to take 3 guitars just because I did 1 song in this tuning and 1 song in this tuning, and the rest of the songs in standard tuning.
Absolutely.
And so you got to haul 3 guitars with you, whereas now with just 1 guitar, you can cover the whole thing.
And the thing is too that I'm sure that a lot of people out there are thinking is it's going to be headstock heavy, and that's not the case.
No.
It's still you know, very balanced. It's basically no different than putting a clip-on tuner on the end of your headstock.
Actually, it's better than that. It's the same. We've weighed it. The same approximate weight as your average set of die-cast tuners.
Right.
So it's not going to cause the guitar to balance any different than if it just had a set of die-cast tuners.
Right.
You know, the shells are a lot thinner on the tuners, and you know, the circuit board assembly is, you know, featherweight light. They also are locking tuners. So it's a lot more string, the strings are a lot more securely fashioned, and then and they're also capable to be used as regular tuners. So you have peace of mind knowing that maybe if you forgot to recharge your battery, you could still use them as regular tuners. Right. And you know, with a 40 to 1 gear ratio. So
right.
So
the only thing is with the 40 to 1 gear ratio, maybe take a few more turns, but the fine tuning is amazing.
Yeah, very precise.
Right. Great system. So Jim and Chris, you are holding 2 examples of a new bass model that's coming out for 2014. Tell us what you have here.
These are the EB models. We have the EB5 and the EB4 string. Both share the same features, you know, just in the 4-string and 5-string format. They feature the Bavis bridge system, which is the full contact bridge. The idea with that is instead of having 2 set screws for each saddle for height adjustment, it has a rotating cam. so the string has full contact with the bottom of the bridge assembly, so it's very secure and has a lot better resonance transfer. And then you can also lock that whole assembly down with some set screws on the back of the saddle and on the front. So once you adjust your height and your intonation, you can lock it all down, so you have more tone transference, resonance transference, and you're not going to have to worry about strings or screws vibrating loose.
Right, that's great.
And you see on a lot of your, your typical bridge saddles, where they have the two posts that you use to height adjust. I mean, basically the end of that post is the transfer, contact, from the string to the instrument. And, this is a much more substantial anchor, and there's a lot better transfer from the string to the body through this system.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
And what are the pickups that are in these?
The pickups, we debuted on this model the year before last, and they're based off of the T-Bird format. So we use the same cover as or at least the same footprint as the T-Bird pickups. We wanted to keep things interchangeable with what we currently offer. And we went with larger diameter Alnico 5 rod magnets, and then voiced each pickup, appropriately for their respective positions. The bridge pickup has a little bit throatier mid-range. The neck pickup is a little more what you'd expect, rounder, deeper low end. And they're also coil tappable. We have the fat taps, which are push-pull pots, and that is voiced. It's a frequency selective coil tap. So instead of simply cutting off one coil, it goes through a circuit where certain frequencies go to ground, certain frequencies pass. The result is a balanced output. So especially beneficial for bass players. You don't want that bottom to drop out, when you're going for a different voice. So you can activate the fat taps. Your low end is still, keeping the balanced output, but your highs and mids are kind of scooped, when the fat tap is engaged. Very suitable for, slap and funk type of players. So you get a lot of voices, and at the same time, you're not dropping out your low end, which is where the money is, right?
That's
very important for bass players. So very versatile, at the same time very simple, 2 volumes and a tone, and then the fat taps.
And a nice thing that we did for this year on this guitar, last year the model, the input jack was through the pick guard, which was okay, but made that a little bit vulnerable at points. So we went to a barrel jack in the side for a more substantial input.
Nice. Nice. And what is the construction of these basses? What are they made from?
Swamp ash for the body, maple for the neck, and rosewood for the fingerboard.
Right.
And it's a set neck, glued in. So it's, classic tone woods that bass players are familiar with, but, set neck, gives it a lot more sustain and resonance. So it's very familiar, but very fresh at the same time with the new pickup. So we're very proud of it, and it's a very versatile bass.
Right, nice.
And it's, again, I know a lot of bass players, the balance is a big issue for a lot of bass players, and this is a very balanced bass. If you look at the contour of the body, this upper bout actually kind of rounds out around this way, to create a very balanced instrument.
Right.
And the 2 and 2 as opposed to 4 in a row on the headstock, help that as well.
So this guitar is the Les Paul Signature. Tell us about it. It's got an interesting control setup here.
Yeah, the Les Paul Signature and Classic both share this new CPA. We have the 15 dB boost that we're using in a few models this year, but we've offered it in a toggle switch version. Some models are using push-push to activate that. On this model and on the Classic, we're using a toggle switch. 2 volumes for each pickup, and then a master tone. And then the volumes are also coil cuts and coil splits for the humbuckers. On the Signature, we're doing a pair of 57 Classic humbuckers. On the Classic, we're doing a Super 57 with the 57 in the neck.
Okay.
On the Signature, we're using a multi-ply binding, so it dresses it off a little bit nicer. AA figured maple top. And the pick guard has Les Paul Signature and 99, and the 99 signifies how old Les would be today if he was with us.
Ah, nice.
For 2014.
Right, right. And this has the e-tune system on it?
Yes, this has the e-tune system as well. Also, for this year, we've switched over to GraphTech nuts. So we're using the black GraphTech original formula for the mini-tune equipped guitars, and we're using the white GraphTech formula, the Tusk and New Bone, for our other models that don't have the mini-tune. Very good product, gives us a lot more tuning stability and very versatile material.
Right, right. Now this also is an example of, you were speaking earlier of the fret ends and the way that you're running those with the binding on the neck. Can you show us that?
Yeah, the frets here typically and historically our bound fingerboards would have the finger, we call them nibs, where the binding would butt up against the end of the fret. And we've had input with people saying, well, when they vibrato a string or shake a chord, that the string would get hung up on the end of the fret where it met the binding. So now we're overlapping the fret on top of the binding. It was a big change for us. We've done the other method forever. And so for us it was a big undertaking, but we had to listen to that input, and it was a value improvement. You know, it's just, the bottom line is it makes a better playing guitar.
Right, it's a functional change that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and for the players that are concerned with that history and the binding nib, we're still offering that on the Les Paul Traditional.
Okay.
So they can still have that.
Right.
So you know, we're doing that.
Say with the 57 Classics, that pickup is built exactly the way that Seth drew it up on paper. The Burstbuckers that we make are actually what was actually built, which had some slight those wonderful
imbalance,
those wonderful accidents that come along, where they were an imbalanced amount of windings on the pickups. These are actually built the way that they were designed.
Exactly the way that Seth envisioned the it would be.
Right. Seth designed them to have nominally 5,000 turns per coil, and that's how we're building these. And as Chris pointed out, the Burstbuckers have an offset, so we intentionally wind one coil hotter than the other, and that imparts a certain character. And and since we did both, and Seth intended for this, we now have the whole variety covered.
Right. You mentioned on the Classic that you have a Super 57. What's the difference with that?
On the Super 57, we just wound the bridge pickup hotter, so it's calibrated with the neck pickup, to give it a little bit more edge and balance between the two. The two, back in the day, companies didn't have calibrated pickups. You had a single coil, it was the same single coil in all positions, or we only made one humbucker, one P90. So now we're conscious of what players are asking for, and so we'll calibrate pickups accordingly. Sometimes we'll make a bridge pickup hotter, sometimes we'll make a neck pickup weaker. So it just all depends on the voice we're looking for.
Sure.
Also on the boost, if I can go back to that, it's a 15 dB clean boost, great for, you need a boost for a solo, especially if you're in a jam night situation or sitting in with a band. You don't have to rely on your pedal board, so it's great, to have that feature. It doesn't significantly change your tone. It's more of a clean boost, but it does give you a little bit more edge because there's another preamp in line, and it's a great tone shaping tool too. A lot of players have mentioned they like engaging the boost and balancing their pickups, and you still have a lot more clarity and edge because of that. So a lot of tonal variety there. And then it's powered off a 9-volt battery, which we house in the battery box on back. So the control cavity is still our classic standard cavity and cover shape, but we just put the back battery box in there, so it's very convenient and accessible.
Brilliant. So Jim, this is the Les Paul Peace. Tell us what's different about this guitar.
The Peace model is a tribute to the Summer of Love, that great 60s era, with all the hippies.
Right.
And so we just did a tribute to it. So we have, Peace laser engraved on the stop bar tailpiece. We even have a little peace sign, on the tuning,
that's awesome.
the stop tailpiece studs. So that's a cute little thing.
Right.
We have tie-dye look peace symbols on top of the volume controls. we have the new 61 humbuckers, which are in the burst bucker family, but we reverse the coil offset, so the screw coil is the hotter coil. And they also feature Alnico magnets, which would be period correct for the 60s. So it's a little bit more output and edge than what the burst buckers with the Alnico 2s would have.
Okay.
We have a little tie-dye swirl tuning pickup selector knob, and then
peace signs on the tops of our volume and turbo pots.
Yeah. It's supplied with a hemp-covered case.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool look. You know, it's you know, kind of like a, you know, tannish kind of color, and has a peace emblem on that as well. So, you know, it's that whole fitting tribute for that era.
Right.
It has a 60s slim taper neck, and it also is mini tune equipped.
Okay.
So.
And it's in, I think, 5 very mellow flavors that you can choose from.
Right.
Yeah,
Mellow flavors, right. Well, actually, and that actually brings up that you guys have come out with some really great colors. This green is beautiful, and there's a light blue behind you here. Tell us how you go about choosing those colors. Where do those come from?
We've had, you know, input and just directive. You know, Henry wanted us to come out with a lot of new colors. We work with our finishing engineer, Tom, who you know, is very, very passionate, you know, about his task, and you know, in conjunction with our crew, you know, our development team, you know, we just kind of kick things around, and Tom works things up, and we've come out with a lot of new exciting finishes this year.
Yeah. Yeah,
but a lot of times it is, you know, input from, you know, from consumers, you know,
and dealers.
You know, and dealers.
Asking, you know, hey, we need something new, something fresh.
Right.
Right. Right. So in addition to the guitars we've looked at here, we've also got the traditional. And tell us about that. Has anything changed with that? Is it the traditional that we all know and love?
It is. We've offered some new features on it, or some new finishes, I should say.
Okay.
But the main features are still classic traditional features. So they have the orange drop capacitors. The orange drop, that's another addition to this model line. We've used that on the traditional for some time, but we've incorporated the orange drops into many of our other models.
Great.
But the traditional has the hand-wired, you know, not the plug-and-play circuit board, but it has the hand-wired assembly with orange drops and CTS pots. It still has the fret nibs, you know, with the binding. No weight relief at all. And then the new 59 classic pickups, which are another variation of the burst bucker line, but with the reverse offset and still using the Alnico 2 magnets. So it's still traditional, as in its name implies, but very fresh for this year with the new colors.
So the 59 classic, is that what would have been on a 59 Les Paul? Is that similar to that?
Just like, you know, we discussed earlier, back in the day, things, you know, weren't as consistent as they were today. So, you know, we've had a lot of research on the burst bucker and recreating the PAFs, and you had so many things that were different. You know, maybe some of them the slug coil was hotter, some of them the screw coil was hotter. Some of them may have actually been pretty well balanced. You know, just different varieties and different overall winds. You know, some of them may have been on the lower output side of things. Some of them may have been a little bit more robust. So the 59 is just another version of the burst bucker, and in this case we have the hotter coil being the screw coil, and it imparts a little bit more of that single coil character, because with the cover on the pickups, you know, as we know, you take the covers off, you get a little bit more output. And it kind of attenuates the slug coil a little bit, which is typically the hotter of the two coils on the burst bucker. So for this year, we made the screw coil a little bit hotter, and with the cover, makes that more dominant, and imparts a bit more of that single coil cut. Still has the classic PAF sound, but a little bit more cut because of that.
Right. So as a master luthier that's behind some of these designs, then, are you looking for example pickups that you then say, you know what, this is a great sounding example of a pickup from that era, I'm going to duplicate that for this new model? We do to some point. In this case, we've had a lot of previous research that we were able to draw off of that we just haven't done yet. So, you know, after all these years, you know, we've had a lot of research, you know. And to go after just one is a very tough thing, because there are so many different, and then players have different ideas, you know, maybe they're not familiar with that one. So you have to look at the character of, you know, in general, what are the variables
that people really clung on to with the PAF, and a lot of it, you know, where we've gotten input from different players and evaluated a lot of different pickups, was that offset in the coils. They weren't matched as Seth had originally envisioned. So that burst bucker concept kind of led to all of this, and because of that, now we say, well, some could have been hot with the, you know, slug coil, some on the screw, and then different levels of output, different magnets.
Sure.
You know, back in the 50s, they went from Alnico 2, Alnico 3, Alnico 4. In the 60s, they started using 5. They all have their character, and they're all viable. They're just different flavors.
Sure. But with modern technology and modern production, you've been able to make that consistent.
Absolutely.
So when you get a 59 Classic, it's not like you're getting a good 59 Classic, and this one maybe is a different 59 Classic. They're all good, but you know, different levels of. You're going to get a consistent one that you can rely on.
Much better.
Right.
It's much finer these days, of course. You know, we have automated. Not only do we have automated winding machines, but now we're stacking the coils. So now we can do, depending on the model, anywhere from 6 to 12 coils at one time. So now that consistency is even more finely tuned.
Right.
But you know, the thing is with Gibson USA is that, you know, Gibson USA is the division of Gibson, and Gibson's comprised of, you know, a couple different, you know, divisions, and Gibson USA is the one that we can use to try new things and experiment and you know, look for, you know, new ideas. If you're someone that's the dyed-in-the-wool Gibson person and has to have it just like they made it in 1958, well, we have that for you, and it's Gibson Custom. You know, and you can get, you know, an R8 or an R9 or an R0.
Right.
You know, so it's really nice to be able to have the different divisions, you know, to come together and offer a great product mix for, you know, hopefully everyone.
And it's got to make your guys' jobs fun too, to get a chance to, especially, you know, trying things out and
a good gig,
get a chance
I can't
to see all that
complain.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. We appreciate you guys taking time away from your fun.
Oh, we're glad
to come here and talk
glad you
with
have
us.
us. Yeah, thank
It's fun
you.
to have you here too. So
Yeah.
we
All right,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for Sweetwater's Guitars and Gear. Be sure to tune in next time. We'll have more guitars, more amps, more effects, and we'll be making lots of music.